Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the oldest and most powerful human traditions, storytelling. We're going to unlock the secrets of what makes a great narrative really stick with you. So, let's kick things off with a sound you'll probably recognize.
In a world. Yeah, a little over the top, I know. But you totally recognize that voice, don't you? It's that classic movie trailer sound, and it's a very deliberate vocal trick. You get right up on the mic, speak with low intensity, and it just pumps up the bass. But honestly, that's just one tiny piece of the massive puzzle of storytelling.
But the real question is, why? Why do some stories just grab you and never let go, while you forget others the second they're over? Well, I'll tell you, it's not magic, it's a craft. And today, we're going to break down the actual blueprint that storytellers use to turn simple ideas into these unforgettable experiences. You see, every great story, whether it's a summer blockbuster or just a really compelling presentation at work, starts with a plan. Nothing is an accident. It all boils down to two fundamental questions that you absolutely have to answer before a single word of the plot is even written.
First, you have to define the situation. Is this a movie, a book, a live talk? The how and where completely changes the tools you have at your disposal. Second, who is your audience? You've got to know who you're talking to and, just as important, what you want them to feel. I mean, think about it. Telling a ghost story around a campfire is a totally different game than presenting a quarterly report in a boardroom. You get these two things right, you've built a foundation.
So, once you know your situation and your audience, you have to choose a blueprint. And right here, the storyteller has a choice to make. There are basically two fundamental blueprints they can use to build their entire narrative. On one side, you've got the dramatic structure. This is all about action, it's about conflict, it's designed to pull you in emotionally and show you a reality. On the other side, you have the epic structure. This one is way more about description and reflection. It's meant to make you think, and it's all guided by the narrator's specific point of view. Think of it like a high-octane thriller versus a really thought-provoking documentary. And this right here, this is the perfect picture of that dramatic structure. It's that classic arc, the rising action, the climax, the fall. It feels so satisfying because it basically mirrors how our own brains solve problems. There's a setup, a big confrontation, and then a resolution. Almost every single Hollywood movie takes you on this exact journey. The epic structure, though, is not a straight line. It's more like a web. You have this central hub, that's the narrator's viewpoint, and then all these spokes shooting out to different ideas or moments. The goal isn't to solve one single burning conflict, but to make the audience think about a much bigger theme from a bunch of different angles, building this sort of mosaic of understanding. So, how does this actually get built? Let's zoom in on the most common blueprint, that dramatic structure, and really break down what makes its plots so incredibly powerful and honestly, timeless. When it comes to story structure, there's a number that just keeps popping up over and over again. 3. Our brains are just fundamentally wired for patterns, and the pattern of a beginning, a middle, and an end is about as basic as it gets. The classic 3-act structure is pretty much the skeleton that holds together most of the stories we absolutely love.
And here's how it works. Act 1 is the exposition. This is where we meet the characters, see their normal world, right before some initial conflict comes and messes everything up. Act 2 is the rising action. Now the problem gets bigger, the stakes get higher, and our characters get pushed past a point of no return. And finally, Act 3. This is the big showdown, the climax and the resolution, where the hero confronts the conflict head-on and a new normal is created.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. Even within that 3-act framework, it turns out that nearly every story ever told can be boiled down to just 7 basic plots. That's it, 7. These are the big ones, the foundational stories that tap into our most basic human experiences. You've got overcoming the monster, that's our primal fear. Rags to riches, which is all about the hope for a better life. The quest, our deep desire for purpose. Then there's voyage and return. Someone travels to a strange new place and comes back forever changed. You have comedy, and its darker twin, tragedy, like The Godfather. And finally, rebirth. It's kind of amazing to think that pretty much any story you love fits into one of these molds.
But a plot structure, even a great one, is just a skeleton. For a story to really come alive, to truly connect with us, it needs a heart. It needs a soul. And that's where theme comes in.
As one source puts it, the theme isn't the plot, it's the moral, the message. It's the big idea underneath it all that gives the events their real meaning. So while the plot is what happens, the theme is what the story is really about on a deep human level.
And some themes are just so universal, they resonate with everyone, across every culture and every generation. I mean, think about the timeless struggle of good versus evil, or that powerful idea that love conquers all, or the tragedy of a loss of innocence. These are the central ideas that give stories their emotional power and make them stick with us forever.
Okay, so you have a structure and you have a theme. Now you need the tools to actually build the story, to bring its world to life for the audience. And this is the Storyteller's Toolkit. First, you absolutely need compelling characters. The heroes we root for, the antagonists we love to hate. They're our way into the story. Then you need dialogue that doesn't just sound real, but actually pushes the narrative forward or reveals something important about a character. And in visual media, every single tool matters. The sound and music that create mood and tension, the lighting, the camera angles that literally tell us how to feel. All right, let's wrap all this up with the most important thing to take away from our journey into the heart of storytelling.
Just remember this. Great stories don't happen by magic. They are built piece by piece with intention. They're built with a plan, for a specific situation and a specific audience. They are built on a structural blueprint, they're given a soul with a theme, and they're crafted with a very well-used toolkit.
So now that you have the blueprint, you're going to see the architecture of stories everywhere, in the movies you watch, the books you read, even in the way a coworker explains a project. But it also raises a pretty cool question. Knowing the blueprint, the themes, and the tools, what story will you tell?